Isn't she pretty? An Ibanez AS83L. The L being because it's the wrong way around. But we can forgive it being left-handed. It's quite pretty. It's just a setup on this one. It's had a change of gauge of string. It's gone from 11s down to 10s. And in doing so, it has become basically unplayable. Everything just frets out. So it's going to need a truss rod adjustment at least, and probably a little bit of a saddle adjustment. It's going to need the intonation done. We're going to clean the fretboard. We're going to give it a little clean, as we tend to. Nip up all the hardware. I'll get rid of these extra bits of string that are hanging off, because there's really no need for that. That's just asking to damage the finish. In fact, I'm going to bend them up right now, so that when I start on those tuners, we don't end up with big string end circles dug into the bloody headstock of it. I did notice on the last video that the focus was all over the place, because I'm still learning to use this camera app that I'm having to use. And I didn't lock it, so I'm now locking the focus properly, so I just need to remember to lock it. And I also thought that the audio was a little bit too quiet, so I've moved the mic placement a little bit closer to me, so fingers crossed it will be okay and not blow it out too much, because it's a bit of it's a bit finicky, this microphone, to be honest. So we'll get you set up, and we'll get the strings off, alright? Right, well, the first thing I'm going to do is sort that the extra string out here. I'm just going to chop them, because we're leaving this set of strings on, and we certainly don't want any damage occurring. Snip them off as close as you can snip them. No harm. And we should be good. Let's wind everything down a little. Let's slowly take the tension off the neck here, because I don't want it to shift too much. I don't want it to make a rapid movement. Things tend to stay in line and just go a little bit easier when you're a little bit smoother things. Right, we're not taking them completely off. We're just loosening them off. We're going to give that fretboard a bit of a wipe, bit of a rubby dub. Right, let's get this rubbed up good and proper. It's already in pretty good nick, to be honest. It's been cleaned fairly recently by the looks of it, but a polish always makes a difference. Proper polish. You always end up with little scratches on the top of the frets, because the frets are made of nickel silver, and the strings are made of nickel. With all kinds of other things, as far as I'm aware. It depends on the string. But basically, unless you've got stainless steel frets installed in your guitar, the material of the fret is no harder than the material of the string. So as the string wears, the fret wears with it, which isn't ideal, but it doesn't take too much to get rid of just the surface scratches. It only really starts to get out of hand, and this comes on to the age-old question of how often should I change my strings. This is the answer, basically. It only really gets out of hand when the strings get corroded, because when the strings get corroded, they end up they basically become like a little abrasive. They're like a little piece of sandpaper, because the little pits and troughs that develop on them with the corrosion it's microscopic. You can't really see it properly, but you can feel it. Yeah, they scratch the hell out of the fret, basically. So if you let your strings go to the point where they start to become black and corrode, then you're costing yourself money, really, with a fret repair at some point, a refret or a fret level or a recrown. It accelerates fret wear so much when you've got corroded strings. You would not believe it. which is why I'm a big proponent of Elixir strings or coated strings in general, but Elixirs are great specifically, because I've tried other coated strings that I didn't like quite as much. Holly Benton do a really nice coated string for pretty cheap. I sell those, but the Elixirs are quite often just a little bit too expensive for people. They are well worth it as far as actual value for money is concerned. It depends on the player, because it depends on how acidic your sweat is. It depends on how corrosive your skin is to the metals, because us humans are corrosive beasts. And it totally depends on the individual. But for me, I tend to find that a normal set of strings will start to blacken and sort of redden in the positions I've been playing in. If I've been sort of really giving it some and sort of sweating under the strings, within an hour, 2 hours, you can start to see a reddening. And if I was to just leave those strings after 2 hours playing, and I start to see a little bit reddening if I play in the same sort of position for that long. Not that I do these days, but this was a problem I used to encounter when I was first starting, because I wouldn't move position as much as freely as I do now. If I left those strings, the reddened strings, until the next day, come back and they're black and it's all corroded there. So you really need to make sure that you whiten your strings down. And if you find that it's a common problem for you, then you might be one of the unlucky few who kind of need coated strings. That's what I was saying. The value for them, it depends on the person. But for me, a normal set of strings would blacken within a day or two of playing them like that. And then a set of Elixirs, although they're maybe twice the price, 3 times the price at a push, they would last me, personally, literally about 20 times, 30 times as long before they would start to actually corrode to the point where it would be damaging a fret. And that's a significant difference. And for the entire duration of the life, the sound clearer as well, because they're not corroding, because everything's staying as it should. It's the plain top strings that cause the problem mainly. The wound strings, yeah, it's two different kettles of fish, to be honest. The wound strings get loads of gunk built up inside the windings, and that obviously deadens them. So the benefit of having the coating is that it blocks up the space in between the windings, and muck can't get in there, so it doesn't deaden the string over time. But that's not, I don't find that's the main issue for most people. As I say, I think the far more prevalent issue or pressing matter is the fret wear, which generally tends to come from the plain strings, because the windings on the wound strings aren't made of nickel, generally. They're usually made of something softer than what the fret is, so it doesn't tend to cause a problem. But the plain strings, as I say, become like little abrasives. So as long as you've got anti-rust plain strings, like the top strings, that would really solve the matter. And I don't know if any manufacturer has thought about that and just used anti-rust top strings with normal bottom strings and set them at a reasonable price. But that would be a damn good idea if someone fancied doing it. And if they don't, then I might. Right, this is looking much better now. These strings are getting in the way a bit. I do have a string separator somewhere, but it's not the right one, because I made 2 and then I snapped one. I snapped the one that I use most often, because, well, that's the unfortunate way that probability works, isn't it? Right, beautiful. I like it a lot. Oh God, I've just nearly knocked that flying. I have knocked that flying. I'll have to fix that at some point. Don't. Okay, that was a pin falling. If you could hear that, then this microphone works quite well. Can you hear a pin drop? Right, let's move you a little bit, and I'm going to tighten up some hardware and stuff, and then we'll do the rest of the clean of the body. Right, we'll get this hardware nipped up. Yeah, man, they always need a good nipping up. Makes a hell of a difference to tuning stability. This, as you can imagine, if the post itself is able to wobble freely within its hole, within its ferrule. And things changing, humidity, temperature, things moving is going to make a bigger difference to it, isn't it? Look at all of that, man. If you do this yourself, do make sure that you're not going to put too much force into it. But you definitely want them snugly nipped. We might as well give that a little clean while we're up here, eh? What do you say? Give it a little rubber dub. In fact, we're going to need the truss rod cover off this anyway, aren't we? So we may as well do past the edges and make it look all crisp and beautiful. Why not? Oh. Right. Un, deux, trois. Off you pop. Thank you very much. This will be a 4mm truss rod, I guarantee you, because it's Ibanez. And I like to make things nice and easy. Full of shit on that, it's a 5. I think it is, you know. Oh, hello. Don't be falling off there. What bloody size truss rod's this? Yes, 5. Yes. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that without any bloody sound, because I've just realised that one of my new microphones has just died. Battery-wise, I mean, it just ran out of battery because I've been messing around with it for a while, and then I've shot that video with it. And then I'm getting 10 minutes into the next video, and it's bloody stopped working, hasn't it? So I've got that on charge now. Luckily, it was a pack of 2, so I've got a fresh one on. But we're without sound for a little while, and I didn't notice the light at first. And I looked down at some point, and the little green light that's supposed to be on, it wasn't on, and I was taken aback, horrified, shocked and appalled I was. So yeah, I'm really good at this whole microphone thing. You missed a whole spiel about how great cutting compound is, and where you can and can't use it and everything. I will have to give you that again at some point. Alright. Let's get the bridge in. And we're ready to tune her up. Actually, man, I've missed the majority of this bloody video on the audio. That's a shame. Oh, this looks so nice. Right, let's get that thingy back up. Yeah, what I was saying about the cutting compound anyway, is that it's absolutely magic stuff. Verisla J3 it is that I use, and there's loads of different products that you can use that are similar. It's basically like sandpaper. It's like liquid sandpaper, but really really fine. It's actually designed to be used with a machine. It's supposed to be put on with a machine polisher, but it's good enough stuff that if you're willing to put a little bit of elbow grease into it, you can get away with that and do it by hand, no problem. What am I doing here? I'm just tuning it up, aren't I? Yeah, you can get away with doing it by hand, no problem. You know what? It's just not flowing the same as it did. I can't force it, man. You're in the wrong place. Get out of there. Yeah, it's supposed to be used by machine, but because it's the way that it works is, as far as I understand it, anyway, it's supposed to get finer grade as you use it. So as you start to rub it in, it starts off with a fairly coarse, essential like a coarse grit to it, and then as you rub it in, it becomes finer and finer. So you can take out quite large scratches with it, but also still take everything to an absolute mirror shine, like a lovely polish on it. All just with the one thing by hand. So I use it for all kinds, but that was what I was mainly saying while the bloody mic was off. That you've got to be a little bit careful where you use things like that, though, because you are still essentially taking off a layer of paint when you're using them. And yeah, it's a very very thin layer of paint. It's microns thick. Um, it's still taking off paint. So it depends on how thick the paint is. So on something like this that's just finished with polyurethane, that goes on really thick when you finish something with polyurethane because you can just spray maybe 3, 4, 5 coats. You know, give it a little bit of time between each coat. Spray each one on fairly thick. Um, Although you use a tack coat for the first one, so the first one's going to be a light coat regardless, no matter what you're using. But then after that, with polyurethane, you just spray it on really thick, and that's no problem. So you end up with quite a thick coat fairly easily. Whereas if you're using something like nitrocellulose, you need to spray it on in really thin coats, and then you need to let each coat dry and air off gas for ages. And the longer you leave it, the better, basically. So what you end up with is a situation where people don't want to do like 20, 25 coats that sometimes takes to get a really thick luster on a nitro finish. So they'll do maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 coats, which is still a lot, but you end up with a much, much thinner, and each coat is much thinner than what it would be with a polyurethane. So you end up with a much thinner overall coating on the surface by the end of it. So when you start going at it with things like abrasives, it's obviously it can be a little bit too much, and you can burn through them. Whereas with a polyurethane finish, you could probably stand there for days. You could stand there till the cows come home, and it would not burn through. Right. So we need to get our tune, don't we? We need to get our tuned and an approximation of a setup here. We've already adjusted the truss, so that should be somewhere in the right sort of region. But we're not going to know that until we get some tension on the neck, because it's in a completely different shape when there's no tension on it. So let's move some of this stuff out of the way. We don't need all of that. Right, I think I will move you to the other side as well, so you can have a gander from there. Right, let's get our tuned up. Let's turn the tuner on first. That would probably help, wouldn't it? Let's turn the volumes up as well. That would also probably help, wouldn't it? Because it's left-handed, so everything's backwards to me. Oh, that's... I'm trying to stretch all the strings here to make sure that the strings aren't going to hold any tension, or any springiness sort of thing, to put it simply. Because if the strings aren't fully stretched, then they're sort of able to expand and compress a little. Whereas if they're fully stretched, they could in theory compress, but they can no longer expand. And it means that it's not going to swallow up any of the energy of the truss rod, the force of the truss rod adjustment, because you're altering the balance of forces when you're adjusting the truss rod. That's gone sharp. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. It's just a crazy tuner. Nut height, not too bad. That G is, for some reason, high. Everything else is fine. Strange. That's a little strange. Yeah, a little bit more off. I'm using my 2 fingers here as a guide to guide this, make sure it's straight and true. A little bit more. Also keep the angle as similar as possible to the angle of the brake, the angle that the strings take after the nut. Lovely. Should always tune up to pitch as well, never tune down from above the note to the note. Always tune down below it and then come back up to it, because that tries to maintain the best balance of tension again. If you tune down, you can end up with, if the nut isn't perfectly lubricated, then you end up with basically the string sort of bunches up here, and then as you play, when you use vibrato and stuff, you increase the tension here, and you pull bits of string through the nut. And when you do that, obviously, that's going to take the string flat. It's going to make the string sound flat. So you tune below, tune up to it, and then there's no sort of spare string here to be pulled through, and it's more stable tuning wise. Right, now this comes the fun bit, where I've got to try and play a left-handed guitar to see how well it plays. I'm definitely going to have to raise that slightly. Can I get away with the wheels? Nope. Now, best practice here, admittedly, is to take all the tension off these strings. But if you're only making a slight adjustment, it doesn't make that much difference. Something like that. I know it's not tuned. I'm listening for clarity of notes. Right. Now she should sound okay. Gotta break me backwards F chords out. Crosswise. That's a lot more like where she needs to be. You're always going to get some degree of that buzz. Oof. Right, let's give this string a really good stretch. We're going to need a little bit more off the truss. It needs to be loosened up just a little bit. That's what I keep this here for a little bit of leverage. Let's loosen the truss up a little bit. Seems good to me. I'm gonna need to let it settle a little bit now that I've done the truss rod adjustments anyway. So I'm gonna give the rest of the body a little bit of a wipe down. I'm gonna let that settle. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna check the action. I'm gonna check everything properly. We could maybe get away with a little bit lower on the treble side there. And we probably want it slightly higher on the bass side too. I'm gonna just tune that back up. Right, something like that's going to be about right, isn't it? Now that is a bit high on the bass. Give me a proper look. Nah, not especially. It's always a lot more awkward for me doing it, doing a setup on a left-hander. Because so much of my setup is by feel. Yeah, that's within the sort of spec that you're going to be looking at. Well under 2mm on the bass side. I'm just a bit of a stickler for a nice low action, I suppose. But that should be good. It should be good as it sits. And we can't make any rash judgments because everything still needs to settle. I also need to move where the guitar's sitting because I don't want the full weight of the guitar to be sat on the headstock or at the end of the neck, because that can give the illusion of having enough relief in the neck when there's actually not enough relief in the neck by the time it's in the playing position, and it's no longer being bent forward a little bit by the weight of the body levering on it. So can you see well there? We're going to give this little polish to this body here. Let's move you. I'll not bother pausing you. We'll just shift you around there. Raw. You like it raw? Oh, I shouldn't be allowed on the internet, mate. Right. I need me magic polish back again. Yeah, I'm a little bit peeved about losing all that audio on this job. Like, I'm gonna have to make sure that I use a freshly charged microphone for every job, and I'm gonna have to probably keep an eye on it if I'm doing a much longer job, because some of the stuff that I do is like it's an all day job, you know. So I'm gonna have to be charging a microphone and using one and charge the other one, use one, charge the other one, use one. Oh, she's got a little ding in her, bless. It's a shame that. Otherwise, such a nice guitar. Like such good condition, really, because it's not new, you know. Pretty sure this few-year old. Could probably do with some more compound on here, but it's either that or it's rub more. And getting more compound requires putting the guitar down. I've started now, so like Anne Robinson, isn't it? I've started, so I'll finish. Was the weakest link still on the telly? I've never watched the telly for years. If anyone's watching from other than in the UK, probably wondering what on earth the weakest link is. But it was a staple of British TV, whereby a short-haired, tiny, frail-looking, angry middle-aged woman basically belittled every contestant to the best of her ability for 30 minutes on an evening while you had your tea. It was prime TV that way. Oh, and she would always wink at you when you left as well, and it was really awkward because it's like, oh, I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but it seemed like every time Anne Robinson winked, it was the first time she'd ever tried winking, and someone had tried to explain it to her, and she'd be like, "I don't get it. What do you mean? It's like blinking, but only one eye." Like, she just seems so awkward when she winks, and then to make that like a little trademark seemed a bit strange. Right, we're not going to bother putting the truss rod cover on yet because there's a chance that we'll have to adjust that truss a little bit more. Yeah, we are going to have to adjust that truss a little bit more, and we're going to have to compensate for it here. So let's do so there now. Oh, bloody hell. Let's do so now with just a little squeezeroo. They're a lot less sensitive than a lot of other truss rods, these. Right, that's decent. And the last thing I did was tighten it. So if it sits and settles, there's a good chance that it will go further than I've tightened it. Give it a little jiggle around, push down on both sides. Because the way a truss rod works is it basically pushes on the back here, and the back here, and the front there. So it bows the neck back that way. So the other way around, sorry, the front here, and the back there. So it bows the neck that way. So yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna launch into a whole thing. Right, that needs to sit for a minute. So I'll come back to you. Give this a little polish while I'm on. I just can't help myself. I start on, and I just start polishing things, man. I just want them to be shiny. Shiny stuff. Right, this is all done, isn't it? I did this all with microfiber and everything. Did I? do believe I've just done that with microfiber. Very off-putting when I'm chatting to a camera. Right, I'm gonna come back to this, do the final tweaks, and she's done. Right, it's had a minute to sit. I have remembered during that time that I haven't lubed the nut slots yet, have I? Let's get them all lubricated. Nice little bit of graphite in there. Get it all slippy and slidey. Nobody likes to go in dry. I really should not be allowed on the internet. Should I? There we go. Beautiful. Lovely jubbly. What a job. Right. I also realised that the intonation needs done, so we'll get cracking on that as well. So we need to plug her in. We need a tuner on. We're gonna need. Oh, we might not. This has definitely settled a lot. I pulled pretty much everything sharp. Oh yeah, look, well, fancy that. All of what relief has disappeared. Do you mind? Rude. Right. So we're gonna need the key back out. This is why you let things settle, man. First one adjustment is not done as soon as you've done it. Things need to get the pitch and settle in. Every string on this guitar there was pulled sharp. There goes the right in me skin. Look at that. The things we go through for this. Oh, yes. I need danger money for this job, don't I? The things we go through for this. That's unreal. Oh, it would be bent at the end as well, wouldn't it? Lovely. It would have a little bend in it right at the end, which just rips a bit of skin out. And now it's going to cost us a string. Things we go through for this job. Right. Somewhere down here, I've got spare tins. Actually, it would be my luck that if this popped off again, it would land in exactly the same spot, wouldn't it? You know. Intonation. That's what you went there for, isn't it? Before I started hurting myself. Oh look, there's the focus boy again. In with a dodgy focus. Let's get you locked in. At least we've got sound this time. Oh, my microphone is coming off. Right. Intonation. We need to put big screwdriver back. And we need little screwdriver out. Not that little though. That's too little. Right. Leaf starting to look about right now. Yeah, that's a lot healthier. That's also rattling there. Still needs a little bit more of a loosey-loosey. I knew that sounded sharp to me. Neck's still settling a little bit because of all the adjustments. Sharp on the A. Off a bit. Still sharp, and I haven't got the leverage with that screwdriver that I really want. So, up here somewhere, now that you can see me, there's one of those. What string are we on there? A string. Flathead screws are the bane of my life. Whoever invented flathead screws, in my humble opinion, needs a slap. A little bit sharp. Still. Where are you? That's about right. That's a little sharp too. You can pretty much tell by looking at it. That's better. She's in tune. That was coming up as slightly flat every now and again. Where are you? Where's the end of you? I'm just gonna slightly shift that. Like that. Spot on. Sometimes you end up having to get in and push the screws themselves down into place in these. And sometimes you end up having to just nip them just right to stop them bloody vibrating. Because they are a bit of an iffy design. There we go, that stopped it. Well, it's not so bad for someone who doesn't play left-handed. Right, I think we're pretty much there with this now. I am going to leave it to settle a little further just because of the extra adjustments that we've done. But I don't think it's going to move much now. I need to move that with some way that's going to put less leverage on the neck. Grand. Fuel seems good to me. Wipe off the remnants of the evidence that I was ever here. I'm like a ghost. See, I was never here touching this guitar. It is a shame that as soon as you pick a guitar up, your pretty silly, gritty human hands end up leaving marks all over it. I do have I have some silicone spray stuff that I can pop on some of them that leaves like a silicone coating on top of the paint, and it really helps for like to make marks and stuff. Not necessarily to stop them occurring, but it makes them way easier to remove. And stuff like dust just blows straight off the top of it, like nothing wants to stick to it. Right. I'm gonna I'm gonna go as far as to put this rust rod cover back on this. So I'll keep an eye on her before she goes out to the customer. If it needs any other final little tweaks after sitting overnight, then I can have them. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep everything together and just pop it down to settle in the waiting room. Pop that cover back on. This is all blurry as hell for you, isn't it? You're still focused on the bridge. Looks pretty down there though, doesn't it? Right, brilliant, lovely jubbly. I would say that that's all sorted. Man, that's satisfying. We'll focus on that bit. Thank you. Yeah, that finish looks beautiful. Lovely.